welcome back to We Talking About Sports, our weekly fantasy football podcast. What's up, guys?
What's up? Brutal week.
You were undefeated, man. Tell me, what do you mean brutal week? I didn't expect to hear that.
It was bad. Brutal. I'm fine losing one fantasy matchup. Like, if that was the only matchup out of all the leagues that I lost, I would have been fine. I'm speaking about our league, but I lost every single league this week. I don't think I won a game and everything that I had this week. So just rough all around. That's what happens when you put all of your eggs in one basket. As I seem to have done. I like taking a lot of shares of some guys that I'm really high on, and I was high on Austin Ekeler, and we'll get to him a little bit later. But in PPR, he had just put up a 32-point week, so things were looking up until this week. Just unfortunate what happened, but yeah, brutal week.
This was actually
you went up together. What happened there? Tell the people.
What was that?
Me and you went up against each other. Tell the people what happened.
Yeah, me and you played against each other in the podcast league, and the return of George Kittle almost got me. I was up a decent amount with Nick Chubb getting injured for you, and then Kittle exploded on Sunday night. So you were up 12 going into the Monday night games, and you had Mason Crosby left, and I had Patrick Mahomes, and it wasn't looking good at halftime. Mahomes only had 6 points at halftime. You were still winning. But those cheap touchdowns, man, they weren't even passes. It was two little jet sweep, touch passes forward that count as touchdowns. And I'll take them, but I ended up squeaking out a 2-point victory against Justin. So took his playoff spot.
Kittle, what a way to come back, though. What a way to come back from injury.
We're gonna get into that when we get into the studs of the week for sure. But let's start off like Roland said with the bad news. Unfortunately, the early theme of the season, the injury bug hitting again. Roland, you said you had several shares of Austin Ekeler.
Yeah, I'm in 4 leagues. I have him in all 4 leagues. He put in work last year with Melvin Gordon in the backfield. He was their primary pass catching back, and he even took over some of the rushing responsibilities when Melvin Gordon was a little hampered last year and fared pretty well. So with him out of the picture, I was extremely high on him. I thought they were going to rely on him a lot in terms of checkdowns. It didn't happen in the first game or two, but it looked like he was hitting a stride last week. So it looked like it was paying off up until the first quarter of this last game where he went out with his hamstring. But yeah, I have him in all 4 leagues, so I'm definitely going to be on the waiver wire. And the crazy thing is, I had just, and in hindsight, I probably should have accepted the trade, but I turned down a trade for Joe Kelly just the day before because I didn't have him on my bench. But I wasn't in the position at that time. Granted, it's hindsight 2020, but that time
you don't believe in handcuffing?
I do, but I don't want to have my whole bench be dedicated to handcuffs because I handcuffed some of my other guys that I had on my roster. So, and then also I didn't want to have too many guys on the same team because what happens if the COVID thing happens? Then you got yourself another bye week with guys on the same team. So that's kind of what I was thinking, especially with what had just happened or what was transpiring with the Chiefs and the Patriots this past weekend. That was pretty crazy with the whole positive test that came out and whether or not the game was up in the air. People didn't know what was going to happen.
I know a bunch of people were making already thinking of scenarios as to keeping Chief players in the starting lineup and having a backup that commissioners can kind of go in there and substitute for that one Chiefs player from their bench. But thank God it didn't have to get to that. Everything got handled pretty well. I thought we've had that one, bye week already with the Titans COVID. Today they did have everybody test positive, I believe. Today was everybody test negative, test positive. Shit, my bad. That'd be horrible. But yeah. So Roland, how do you play this? Do you go out and get Kelly? Do you play the waiver wire? What's going to be your move?
Well, right now I'm just going to play the waiver wire. I think I have some moves to make in terms of a trade. I'm pretty deep at wide receiver in some of these leagues, so I might be able to flip something, but I don't want to do anything rash. In this league, I also have Raheem Mostert. So in my main league that I lost him in, I also have Raheem Mostert. So I'm waiting for him to come back. The sooner he comes back, the less desperate I get, or the less desperate I am to do something. Because right now I think I'm okay, but I'm definitely going to play the waiver wire. I also had picked up Myles Gaskin maybe 2 weeks ago, and he looks like he might be like a flex running back 3 kind of guy.
So do you go back to the Kelly owner at all, or no? Or you just
I mean, I might. I mean, I know the Kelly owner, and he's probably going to raise the price a little bit, and rightfully so. I mean, people are saying he's a premier running back too, but we'll see how the offense fares the rest of the year. I do like what I see out of Justin Herbert. I'm also in the market for a quarterback right now with Matt Stafford on bye. So I think we'll talk about buys later, but yeah, I'm going to be looking for maybe Justin Herbert.
And the other guy, Justin, I know this hurt you. You want to talk about a little bit about Nick Chubb going down with an MCL sprain? They said he's been placed on IR 6 weeks.
This week, this definitely hurt me. I was probably going to win this matchup against you if Nick Chubb just finishes the game.
Probably
the Browns running backs are getting the most carries, I think, in the NFL between Hunt and Chubb. And Chubb was already getting a workload as it was, except he got rolled up on by a player. I'm just glad it's a sprain. It's probably going to be 6 weeks, maybe a little bit more. So I'm going to have to do. Well, I already initiated a trade. And it's not the most favorable trade on my side, but I'm a little bit. I have some depth at receiver, so I was willing to let go of Cup for Mike Davis. I know that's not the greatest trade. Some people will be like, "Hey, why'd you do that?"
He's producing while he's been starting.
I just need 2 more weeks of Mike Davis, and I have Mostert on the bench. So then I can get Mostert to start after that for me, and that'll get me through the time that I have Chubb out. So that's kind of what I did to supplement that.
Okay. Yes. Mostert, I know he should be close to coming back. McKinnon has looked well for them. But yeah, Chubb, weird. It wasn't even a play where he had the ball. He was blocking and got rolled up on. It's unfortunate.
Took off his gloves right away, and I knew it. That's
and like you said, I mean, Hunt and even the third stringer that came in were able to eat. So Nick Chubb was going to get in the end zone a couple of times, if not one for sure. So I dodged a bullet there.
All right. Studs of the week. Big John was talking about Joe Mixon, and that's one of the ones we have at the top. 25 carries, 151 yards, and 1 touchdown. 6 catches for 30 yards and a touchdown. For a total of 39.1 fantasy points. Man, that's big time. Almost 40 fantasy points by one player. That's Dak Prescott numbers right there, as far as fantasy points go.
That's pretty crazy. And I think he's probably not going to hit 40 a lot, but it's going to be pretty close to that. I think he has potential, is what I'm trying to say. Anytime you're a bell cow, like I think Joe Mixon is, he's going to get the opportunity. And it looks like he's hitting stride right now. So, I mean, this stat line might be something to come. And I know they play in a wide open offense now. Taylor, their coach, if I'm not butchering his last name, I think it's Zach Taylor. He likes to air it out. He's a former college quarterback. So that offense should be fun to watch. And they're going to be playing from behind a lot. So the pass catching is going to be there. So if you're in a PPR league with them, it's looking good.
Joe Mixon, John, who owns him, says he's on the trading block.
Yeah, I have
Joe Mixon.
I have him in two of my teams. I have 3 leagues, and he's in 2 of my leagues. I've got him, and this is what all the Mixon owners are waiting for. We even talked about him a little bit last week about the guys who really haven't performed yet, but like Roland said, are getting the opportunity. And Burrow looks like it's going to be serviceable, man. It looks like that offense is going to be able to move up and down the field and get Joe Mixon in positions to get in the end zone. So it's definitely a sell high right now, but we'll see how many people are buying all of that. His matchups coming up aren't the most favorable, but like we said, Joe Burrow's getting that offense up and down the field, so we'll see.
All right, one of my guys, George Kittle, 15 targets for 15 receptions, 183 yards, 1 touchdown, and 32.6 fantasy points.
Monster
tight end performance, man. They kept going to him. He looked good on the field. I see this, maybe not 32, obviously, right? But 15 plus, I can look at and
consistently
be consistent with that and be happy with that. Do you think that's too much to ask from Kittle, or does that look like that's promising?
It looks like he's the best receiver on the team. He's gonna get those looks. I mean, he just so happens to have the tight end designation, but Kittle's a monster. I think he's gonna be for the rest of the year probably tight end number 1 because he's just flat out their best option.
Yeah, Kittle. Do you think that he just goes into the huddle and tells Nick Mullins, "Hey, throw me the ball"? Because, bro, like even with backups, this guy eats.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean the offense is built around him. I think in terms of passing, I mean the way they set things up, and he's just an athletic freak, man. Like I mean, he catches safeties on streaks down the field. It's ridiculous.
And now it's just guaranteed for him to break at least one tackle after he catches the ball, bro. His run after catch, he's the best at tight end right now, for sure. 15 targets, 15 receptions. I mean, it doesn't get better than that. Roland, your boy, OBJ.
Man, I hate to see him up here because he was against the Cowboys.
Seems like he's made his name off the Cowboys, bro.
Yeah, he got famous against us. I mean, with that one-handed catch, arguably his introduction to the mass public, or to the masses, excuse me. And I mean, he had a great performance this Sunday against the Cowboys. It started off with that little wide receiver reverse pass from Jarvis Landry, kind of got him started. But I mean, the Cowboys secondary, I mean, along with a bunch of other positions, they're just depleted right now. And OBJ it was slim pickings for him out there. It was too easy. So it was a matter of time for him to go off, and it just so happened that this was his get right game. So let's see if he can build off of it. OBJ, I don't think there's any question he has not lost a step. His production is not a matter of his talent. I think it's still all there. It's just you got to get him the ball. That's just what it comes down to.
Yeah, and it's like, I mean, he hasn't seen a better pass than what Jarvis Landry threw to him. Baker hasn't thrown him a ball that nice since he's been in Cleveland, bro. I mean, that was a dot. And the reverses, I mean, like you said, just get him the ball. They gave him 2 rushes, and that reverse was pretty much the dagger. The Cowboys had battled back, and he kind of just made it a 10-point game or 9-point game, I believe, because they missed the extra point. But OBJ, that's like classic OBJ against the Cowboys, man.
Sad to say, but some things have not changed. Some things have not changed.
Yeah. The next guy up, DJ Chark, man. I know I've been waiting for this guy all year. I drafted him going running back heavy. DJ Chark is a guy that you draft as a wide receiver 1, wide receiver 2. They're in the 4th, 5th round, like with DK and those guys. So he came back from injury. He had been out 2 weeks, 8 receptions, 91 yards, 2 touchdowns, 28.5 fantasy points. It seems like he finds the end zone, man, because in the red zone, he's their main target.
Yeah, he's an athletic receiver too. Just got to let him go up and get it. I like DJ Chark. I have him in one league. I think he's going to be able to produce that offense. I mean, they just go for broke. I mean, they just go out there and play. I don't really know how else to describe it, but I like Gardner Minshew. He's a productive quarterback in this league in terms of fantasy. And just so long as, because I mean, the only thing that you run your risk on with carrying a guy like DJ Chark or starting him on a weekly basis is the Jags are a bad team. So they're bound to have some stinkers, like just some games where they just don't do anything. Yeah, exactly. And nobody has any fantasy production. So those games are bound to happen. But for the most part, I think DJ Chark is definitely wide receiver 2 flex territory for most of the year.
Yeah, I think he's a pretty safe wide receiver 2 in my opinion.
Yeah.
Little fun story. Last week, one of the questions was whether to start DJ Chark or not by Josh, and he was in a close one this week, ended up winning his game, giving off some of that advice that we gave him last week. He was giving us some praise on Facebook. So shout out Josh for listening in on this fantasy show.
Up next, Dak Prescott, y'all's boy, 41 of 58, 500 yards. What is the second time he's thrown for 500 yards this season?
Yeah, I think he's thrown for 500 maybe 3 times, if I'm not mistaken. I saw something like that, or maybe over 400 and 4 touchdowns was the stat. But yeah, he's just been lighting it up. But it's been out of circumstance. They've been in shootout games just because the defense can't stop anybody. They're coming from behind a lot of the time. Yeah, it's just not a good situation for them. And it plays into fantasy for Dak. And, the question now is he going to get that big paycheck? I think that's what everybody wants to know. Maybe we'll get into that a little bit more on Thursday. But as far as fantasy,
for sure we will.
Hey, he's going to be
top
number 1.
Is he the number 1 quarterback throughout the season?
He has to be wide receiver. Wide receiver. He has to be QB1 right now in fantasy. I don't think anybody else has put up close to the numbers that he has.
I believe he's QB2. I think Russ is QB1.
Oh, yeah, because Russ has been throwing some touchdowns. He's been getting a lot of touchdowns,
Josh Allen is QB3. Dak is QB2.
Yep.
But, yeah, with the way the defense is going, it seems like it's going to be a bunch of shootouts for Dak.
I mean, the Cowboys, they do have a lot of weapons. I mean, you see Zeke being effective out of the backfield as a pass catcher. CeeDee Lamb had his big game this week. Maybe we'll talk about that a little bit more. But, yeah, the Cowboys are stacked at wide receiver. And this year was built for Dak to have a monster year. It's just crazy to think if the Cowboys, like if they want him to be their quarterback for the future, man, they should have locked him up before this year because, I mean, there's no way that they can make the argument that he is less valuable than he was a couple of weeks ago. But anyways.
2 touchdowns to CeeDee Lamb, too. So Schultz, I mean, everybody but Gallup was getting involved.
Gallup took the back seat.
Yeah, Dak looks good. I mean, based off the way the game scripts are going to go. And then Tom Brady. Tom Brady has a classic Tom Brady game, that one game a year where he just goes, lights you up for 5 touchdowns to 5 different receivers, 369 yards. He did have 1 pick six. It seems like that's become mandatory from Brady.
Old man can get it done,
right?
I thought Winston was out there.
He's going to throw some ducks. I mean, he has some trouble, and that pass that he got picked off on. I mean, he was trying to throw like a mid to deep out route, and you gotta have the arm to get that there. And if you don't, it's going to get picked off, and that's exactly what happened right there. So that's a little bit of age, but he is still pushing the ball down the field, down the middle of the field on the seams, and that little area from the seam to the numbers on the outside. He's still hitting that down the field. He's still able to push the ball.
The touchdown to OJ Howard was nice on that.
Yeah, so it's encouraging to see that. But as Ben said, I mean, those pick sixes, I think we're going to see a little bit more of that from Tom Brady just because the arm's not there to hit those deep out routes anymore.
I think this is his best game of the season. I don't think
it's his best. Well, so far it's his best game of the season. I don't know.
But I don't
know if he'll put up this stat line again, but he's going to throw over 300 again.
Look, 5 touchdowns is wild.
Threw for 46 attempts there, and I think that's going to be more than a normal occurrence.
They were down, though. Unexpectedly, they were down to the Chargers.
True game script as well. That's true.
Once they did get the lead, they were pounding the ball with OJ Howard till he fumbled.
And Ronald Jones. He's looking pretty good. No, Fournette. I don't know. A lot of guys went high on him, thinking that he was going to step into that offense and just do work. But Ronald Jones, talented back for sure.
Yeah.
All right. These are guys that shocked the system. What I mean by that is we expected them to do good, and they're just not doing it this week. Start with Darrell Henderson of the Rams. 9 touches for 38 yards against the New York Giants for 4.8 fantasy points. This is the fewest he's had since week 1. In week 2, he had 14 touches. In week 3, he had 21 touches. And now in week 4, he has only 9 touches. He's a risky flex play for week 5 if Cam Akers comes back.
I think that was just a bad game overall for that offense. I know some guys made out with points, but I don't think the Rams are too productive overall. I think you bring up a good point, though, with Cam Akers coming back and the fact that, I mean, Malcolm Brown still seemed to be the workhorse for that team. And that kind of throws out what I was saying, because I was, everybody was pretty much putting out on social media how much Sean McVay loved Darrell Henderson and how the opportunities were going to be there for him. So that was kind of what the word on the street was going into this week. Shocked the system. Yeah, just like you said.
9 touches. That's crazy.
And I know some people who spent a lot of money on him in the free agency. If you have those auction leagues where you have to pay money to get a free agent, I know some guys who spent some pretty good capital getting him in a trade, thinking he was going to be the guy in that offense now. But hey, it's just one game. I do think it was more of it was an ugly game. I thought they were going to blow out the Giants, but it ended up being a little bit closer than people expected. So yeah, I wouldn't bail out on Darrell Henderson just yet.
It's not a backfield I want to get involved in, though. I'm not going out and seeking any Rams running backs. If I don't have them, stay away.
Calvin Ridley, 5 targets, 0 catches, 0 fantasy points this week. Again, didn't expect that from Ridley. There was an opportunity in the end zone, and he drops it.
Well, that was a bad pass. That was a bad pass by Matt Ryan. Are you talking about the last play of the game? Or one of the last offensive play? Because that
might
was
have been the last drive the Falcons had. Yeah.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Overall, though, even without that, he had 0 catches even before that drop. Or
he was a number 1 receiver. I think he still is, even after having this game of 0 points.
And I mean, guys aren't going to put up 30.
Matt Ryan played like shit.
Yeah, and that's going to happen.
Tyler Lockett, another guy who had just had the game of his life the week prior. 2 receptions, 39 yards at Miami, 5.9 fantasy points. The fewest he's had this season. So I know I believe that he had a chance at a touchdown, and I don't think he ended up getting it. But I think Russ threw 2 touchdowns to Moore, some random receiver. So just DK didn't even get his weekly touchdown. So
normally Lockett gets better production. So it was a shock this week that he ended up with the fewest points he's had.
2 receptions. 2 receptions.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Zach Ertz from the Eagles, 4 receptions, 9 yards at San Francisco for 4.9 fantasy points. This is the fewest receptions yards he's had since 2017. Again, a shock. I didn't think this was going to be this way for Ertz.
It's been this way the whole season for Ertz.
The Eagles' receiving core is banged up. I don't see. It's not looking good for the Eagles right now.
But how is he not getting the production if the receiving core is banged up? It doesn't make sense. Like
exactly.
The backup tight end had more fantasy points than he did this past week.
And the week before that, when Goddard was healthy, he had more than Ertz.
Yeah.
Yeah, that offense. So it's looking pretty meek.
Miles Sanders is nobody on that offense.
I don't like it. It's not even Miles Sanders' fault though. It's the offense.
No, I'm saying it's him or nobody.
Yeah,
like, he's the only player you can play.
And that offense, I wouldn't want to be a part of it. I have Miles Sanders in I think 1 or 2 leagues. I know I have him for sure in 1 league. I'm still going to play him every week that he's starting unless it's like really bad. But still not an offense I want to be a part of. That offense is banged up in terms of the offensive line. It's going to be a long year in terms of trying to protect Carson Wentz, and they're going to have some stinkers. So beware. Try and get rid of Zach Ertz just based on his namesake. Maybe he's a guy that you can flip just because of his name and past production.
For sure. This next
Drake.
This next
carries.
A guy that I was high on, man. I look like a dumbass. 13
carries for 35 yards and 3.5 points, man.
Terrible.
Might be time to bail out on Kenyon Drake, I think.
I agree.
Might be time to bail out just because Chase Edmonds, man, he's not a bad player. I mean, the only thing with him
not
is
at all.
He's fragile. He'll get hurt just because of his size. He's not the biggest guy, but he can move. He's a pretty talented running back. I had him like 1 or 2 games last year because I had David Johnson, so I cuffed him with Edmonds. And he came through for me in a couple of games. So Edmonds is talented. And I don't think what's his name? I'm blanking out on the coach's name. Ryan Gosling. Kingsbury. There we go. Sorry. I don't think he's married to any running backs. You saw what happened with David Johnson. He went straight to Kenyon Drake. He's gonna go to the guy that's producing. So be careful.
Yeah. Last guy on the list, Julio Jones, 4 for 42 yards. 5.2 points, and only's had a 10+1 game as far as fantasy points go.
Bail. Talk about selling somebody off namesake, bro. I think this is a perfect candidate right here.
Yeah, you could probably sell something, and if you're trying to buy Julio Jones, and you can get him kind of cheap, it could end up being good because I'm not ready to completely say he's going to be a fantasy bust all year unless he just has an injury. Julio Jones is going to.
His hamstring was bugging him this past game. It got re-aggravated.
Well, yeah, he didn't play in the second half, I believe, or because that's part of the explanation for that stat line that you see there. He was off to a decent start, and then he just got hurt. So
let me ask you a question, Roland. Julio Jones or OBJ the rest of the season?
I like what I saw out of OBJ, but again, I think it was more because of the injuries. I'm gonna go with Julio Jones for the rest of the year if he's healthy. I'll put that little caveat in there. If he's healthy, I'll go Julio Jones because I still like Matt Ryan over Baker Mayfield throwing the ball, and they're going to look for Julio Jones. I know they're going to look for OBJ in that offense, but they've also shown that they need to run the ball to hide Baker Mayfield.
Justin, you agree Julio over OBJ?
I like OBJ just a little more because I'm seeing more week after week plays designed to get him the ball somehow, some way. Like Jarvis Landry throwing that pass to him, that reverse that pretty much put the dagger on the Cowboys.
So you go OBJ?
That's just I'm leaning OBJ.
Julio Jones or Keenan Allen rest of the year?
Man, I like Keenan Allen. I think he's shown that he has a good rapport with Justin Herbert.
You go Justin? Oh, I think
Keenan
Allen as well. Yeah, so it's choppy to see what you're gonna what do you trade for Julio Jones if you're going out there to try and get Julio Jones? What do you accept if you're a Julio Jones owner? What's an offer that you accept for him?
Well, I mean, it all depends on the makeup of your team, but I'd be looking for at least an RB2. I mean, those are a dime a dozen right now.
Well, what wide receivers would you be willing to swap for Julio? Is what I'm saying.
Oh man, I can't really think of many off the top of my head. Let me pull up a list real quick.
Keenan Allen, obviously, we said. Justin said yes to OBJ.
Maybe a guy like Parker that had 16 points this past weekend.
Nah, not Parker. DK Metcalf or Julio Jones rest of the year?
I probably like DK Metcalf just because he's shown that he can connect with Russell Wilson, and Russell Wilson looks like he's gonna be on a flamer all year. So I want to be a part of that offense. I know it's one of those things you run into they spread it around a lot because they do, and they do still like to run the ball with Chris Carson, but Russell Wilson's just having himself one of those years. So I'd go DK Metcalf.
Yeah. So there's a 5th round pick that you could flip for Julio, who is, if not a first, second rounder.
Yeah, but I don't know of many guys that have DK want to trade for Julio right now. I think you'd hold on to DK. He's showing that he's playing pretty good.
Juju or Julio rest of the year?
Julio Jones.
Okay. A flamer.
I didn't know what else. Scorched Earth tour. That's
Alex. Alex is gonna eat up all that rush shit, bro. You could have said whatever. You could have said whatever. A flame ball, and he would have ate it up.
All right, some more of the people that shocked the system this week. Jonathan Taylor from the Colts, 17 rushing, but he only had 68 yards and 8.9 fantasy points. This is the fewest he's had this season.
It's impossible to trade for that guy, bro. And even when he has bad games, you go to the owners and you try but nobody wants to let him go.
It was just a shock. It's not. I think he's going to be back to consistent, especially with Marlon Mack out.
Agreed.
Yeah, nobody's panicking. The next guy panic buttons on 1,000 though. DJ Moore, 18 receptions, 288 yards, 0 touchdowns. Looks like he's the number 2 for Carolina with Robbie Anderson there.
Yeah, he got most of his production.
0 touchdowns for that many reception yards stands out.
Yeah, he got most of his production last week. He had like 8 catches for 120 yards, I think. So that's a little less than half of that, but still a considerable amount in 1 week. So I don't know. I'm not ready to bail exactly on DJ Moore. If you can trade him, get him off your team, because I don't know if Carolina's like the best offense to be attached to. So if you can get him off of your team, I would try and do it. I have him in 1 league.
Yeah.
Next on that list, Julian Edelman in the Patriots, 15 receptions, 259 reception yards, 0 touchdowns again.
Cam's the only player on the Patriots offense that's worth a damn.
Yeah, and maybe James White if he gets back into the fold, because he's still a PPR guy with his pass guy. He can catch 10 catches in any given game. Yeah. So I mean, he still has a little bit of value, but you got to wait it out. I'm not starting James White by any means, but to Ben's point, very few Patriots you can play right now.
All right, moving on. Hunter Henry from the Chargers, 18 receptions, 245 reception yards. Here's the theme: 0 touchdowns.
Yeah, I'm not a Hunter Henry fan, but he is one of those tight ends that people drafted, probably like 5th, 6th tight end off the board. Yeah. And this has been a year full of tight ends producing crazy numbers, and Hunter Henry just isn't one of them.
Yeah, and I don't know if him and Herbert have the best rapport. I mean, you can only think how much they've been able to practice together. And it seems like Herbert has a connection with a couple of the wide receivers, so he might be pushing the ball down the field more than not. But still, I don't know. You don't have to start Hunter Henry every week. If you can pick somebody else up, I mean, there's tight ends out there that you can play on any given week, I think. So no need to be attached to him by any means.
Yeah.
The other player is Marquise Hollywood Brown from the Ravens, 16 receptions, 242 reception yards. And here's the theme, 0 touchdowns.
I don't know this one's exactly his fault, though. I was reading something today that the Ravens have ran the least offensive snaps through 4 games this season, and that's been part of the problem in terms of getting a lot of guys touches. So I do think there's something to be said about the offense as a whole, and these guys are talented. They're going to get it together. Marquise Brown and Lamar Jackson, they do have rapport. He had a pretty decent game. If you had him in PPR this week, he got you double digits. Didn't kill your team if you started him by having him in the flex or anything. But anything, if you're playing in any other league other than that, he's kind of useless right now. But still hold on to him if you're in a PPR league is all I'm going to say. I don't think it's all his fault. I think the numbers are going to come.
I've been trying to get rid of him. I have him on 2 teams. And, I mean, I had such high expectations, but it hasn't been there early on, like you said. But nobody will take him either, so I have no choice but to hold on and hope he pops.
And these next 2 guys were, everybody was kind of big on them, especially Higbee. They've got 8 or fewer fantasy points in 3 or 4 games. I think week 3, Gallup had a big fantasy game, and Higbee in week 2. After that, it's been 8 or fewer points for both of them.
Touchdown or bust, it seems like with both guys.
Yeah, because I think we were talking about it last week or maybe 2 weeks ago. Gallup just isn't getting a lot of looks. There's a lot of other guys out there. It's crazy on that offense. Yeah. And Michael Gallup, people thought was slotted into that wide receiver number 2 slot, and he was for sure going to be getting a lot of looks just because of how high he was on the depth chart. But the fact of the matter is Amari Cooper is still wide receiver number 1. CeeDee Lamb has shown that he can play. Zeke is going to take some catches away from you. And another guy just busted out of nowhere. Cedric Wilson has been having some pretty good games. So Michael Gallup has fallen to me in the pecking order of the Dallas Cowboys, and I don't think you can start him right now. Hopefully you have some better options out there. But I know I probably drafted him as a wide receiver 2 this year in one of my leagues. I will say that. So I am pretty disappointed in Michael Gallup. Tyler Higbee I won't give up on, though. I think he has some pretty decent games ahead of him.
Ben, anything else on that?
And just that Everett was the tight end getting the touchdowns for the Rams.
Yeah, he got the reverse too, didn't he?
He got 2 TDs.
He got the end around.
A reverse and a pass. So
that was pretty disappointing.
The Rams offense seems to be wanting to spread it out. And, I mean, now Kupp's been playing better than your boy Woods. It had been like Woods early in the season. Now it seems like Kupp has had the last 2 games. That offense seems like they're just going to spread it out. So it'll be a toss-up.
Yeah, Kupp had a big reception, like 50-plus yards, I think.
Yeah.
All right, it's time to dump these chumps. By no means are they chumps, but, it rhymes, so we went with that guy.
It rhymes.
They cook us on any time of the week. Brandon Cooks, Texans, 3 targets, 0 receptions in week 4 for a total of 19 fantasy points on the season.
I actually started this bum in one league this week because they were playing the Vikings and all receivers have gone off against them, but not even a reception. Drop him. If you need somebody off the waiver, drop him.
Fuller almost had a monster game. Had he caught that last touchdown, he would have had a monster
him choking. He choked, bro. He choked.
Yeah, but I mean, he was the only receiver that produced for you guys and has been consistently producing. After somebody said that he was done. I don't know. Will Fuller, I like him, but Brandon Cooks, yeah, you got to drop him. I have him on a team. He's been on my bench the whole year. Honestly, I auto drafted him because I got disconnected from my draft in that league, so I got stuck with Brandon Cooks. But so is what it is. I'm dropping him though. Yeah, get away from him.
I'm with you. Carson Wentz on the Eagles, 17.1 average fantasy points. You may say, hey, 17 is not bad. That receiving core is banged up. This is not going to be sustainable for him.
17 is bad.
It's time to dump.
You need at least 20. You got to dump him, and the schedule doesn't get easier with these coming up weeks. So I definitely think you get rid of him. I I would be more comfortable starting Minshew over him. Even Minshew, he plays the Texans this coming week. So
I think Carson Wentz is streamable. If somebody does end up dropping him that has him on his roster, he could be a streaming option later on down the season, because just the way that it works, he's going to be chunking it a lot, I think, just the way that offense is going to be working out in a lot of their game scripts. So, yeah, I would not hold on to him. I think Ben makes a good point. You want to drop him, so does Justin. So
he'll be on the wire, though, throughout the season at more than once.
He'll be streamable.
He's a streamable guy.
Yeah.
T.Y. Hilton, I know Ben put this one up.
We had him up there last week. Again, another dud of a week. I saw him on a waiver. I saw him on a free agency of players where you could put a waiver for T.Y. So somebody did drop him already last week. People are dropping T.Y.
Man, I've been out on down even with that injuries around him. You think it would have gone up, and it didn't. So
yeah, I've been out on him from the beginning. I know Roland kind of likes him. Roland, are you done with him? Or
nah, man, I'm just gonna leave him on my bench until he has a good game or something. I'm not gonna drop him.
Okay. The next guy is a guy that we're retiring him from fantasy football here today on We Talking About Sports. AJ Green is no longer a significant or serviceable fantasy football player. From here on out, he did his time. He was a serviceable receiver, but he's retiring from fantasy football. He'll be hitting the waiver wire this week for sure.
Yeah, tough to disagree with that, honestly. I don't have much more. I thought he'd missed on a big opportunity week 1, maybe to get off on a better start, but it really hasn't been there for him in the coming weeks. So it's still early in the season. You know, I'm part of the mind because I know we were talking about the injuries. We didn't talk about it too much, but a lot of these guys are still warming up, man. Like, they didn't have a preseason. They didn't have a full training camp to get going and stuff like that. So there's a lot of that going on here this season, I think. And for a guy like AJ Green, who is already coming off of injury.
Nah, he's had 2 seasons to warm up. He hasn't played like in 2 years.
He was injured coming into this year is what I'm saying. That's what he was questionable coming into the year. He had that Q tag on him. So
he's done.
No preseason doesn't benefit these guys. As well.
AJ Green joins Alshon Jeffrey in the fantasy football retired receivers. Another guy, Marvin Jones, 1 reception, 9 yards, 1.4 fantasy points. He's wide receiver 68 on the year, and he has a 1 double-digit game. Keeping him or dropping him?
Oh, man, I'm going to keep him just because of that offense.
Justin?
Dropping him. Look at the points.
I'll drop him also.
1 game with 10.
Yeah, I'll drop him also. The last guy, Darius Slayton, for the Giants, 3 receptions, 48 yards, 6.3 points. He has games of 4, 4, 6, and that week 1 game, 25. Dropping him or keeping him?
Probably just, I don't have him. I wouldn't have had, I don't know. I would drop him. Yeah, drop him.
Drop him.
It's a drop for me.
I agree. Fuck all the Giants. All of
them. Was he drafted? Did people draft him this year? Darius Slayton?
No.
Oh, okay.
But after week 1, everybody picked him up. He was rostered in pretty much all leagues after he blew up week 1.
Barkley went out.
Yeah.
All right, it's time to look at the bye weeks, guys. We're at that point of the season where bye weeks are about to happen. We got Green Bay and the Lions. That means A-Rod and Stafford will be out this week. So if they're on your roster, keep that in mind. It's
Aaron Jones. Aaron Jones.
I know
been a beast.
And Rodgers on your roster, right?
Yeah, I had Aaron Rodgers. He went off last week. It really didn't matter because I played OBJ and Joe Mixon, so I was already done. And I had Ekeler get hurt, so it was just a bad week overall for me. But Aaron Rodgers is going to have to look for a replacement for him and Matt Stafford because I have Matt Stafford in another league. So
I think you got Matt Ryan on the bench right now. So
I have Matt Ryan, so I'm good there. But Matt Stafford, his bye week streaming option, I'm leaning. Oh man, it sounds crazy that I'm saying this, but it's like either Teddy Bridgewater or Justin Herbert are the 2 guys that I'm looking at just based on their matchup.
Bridgewater has a good matchup.
Yeah. Herbert's not a bad pickup rolling if you can get him because he's had 300+ yards.
And they're playing the Saints. I mean, I know there's no home crowd, but I mean, I just never like playing young quarterbacks against teams like that. But who knows, man? It's a different year, so maybe Justin Herbert goes off on the Saints, but definitely that way.
No Aaron Jones for fantasy owners also, and no Adams. This will be the third week of no Adams, but you got to think he comes back healthy after the bye, right?
You hope so. You hope so for sure. I mean, he was thought of to be a top 3 receiver this year, so a lot of guys are banking on that.
Yeah, and for people who want to look ahead, next week the Seahawks, the Saints, the Patriots, and the Raiders are going to be on bye. So teams you want to look.
I'm not 100% if the Patriots will be on bye. The reason I have Newton up there is due to COVID.
Oh, okay. There you go.
You didn't research that. I was just up there for COVID.
Yeah, but just to look ahead for next week, if you want to get an early start on the waiver wire, plan ahead for next week. If you're a Russ owner and you don't have any other quarterback, this might be the week to jump on somebody instead of waiting till next week.
Good point.
Waiver running backs to consider. As we mentioned, Austin Ekeler injured. Joshua Kelly is going to be an option. He's with the Chargers. Somebody to look at. And Nick Chubb out. Ernest Johnson. He had 13 rushes for 95 yards. Take a look at those two guys as far as if you had Chubb or Ekeler out. Those are the guys to be looking for.
Yeah, I think those are the top two guys that are going to be most targeted on most waiver wires. Obviously, it's running back every week, most weeks. And this week, that's just whose turn it is. Joshua Kelly will be the starter for at least a month, with Justin Jackson getting some work also. And Ernest Johnson, like you mentioned earlier, the Browns just run the ball the most in the NFL. He came in, got 13 rushes, 95 yards. So you got to expect him. I mean, this is obviously it's like.
What about Justin Jackson?
He's on there as well.
Yeah.
Justin Jackson's on there as well. I do think that Kelly is going to be getting the majority of the work only because he's been seeing.
Yeah, I agree.
Some of Austin Eckler's work, but he's another guy that you also want to look at because Kelly has fumbled in 2 games already,
especially in PPR.
Yeah, if Kelly keeps fumbling, they might just throw Jackson in there and roll with Justin Jackson, who's been on the Chargers for several years.
Yeah, I'm looking at Justin Jackson to pick up for Austin Ekeler, actually, in some of my leagues that he's available in. And I'm in a lot of auction leagues, so you got to play this pretty aggressively, I think, in terms of the bids that you're putting in. If anybody plays in any auction leagues, keep that in mind when you're bidding. Some of these guys you just got to go for. And I'm kind of against putting all your weekly or whatever, your whole year's worth of allowance in there, your budget. But some weeks, man, you just got to put a third in there or something if you're playing by percentages. So just something to look out for those people in leagues like that.
All right, the next guy, Roland kind of mentioned him earlier, based on who Ben had, was pretty high on Kenyon Drake. And that's a Chase Edmonds from the Cardinals. 4 for 16 yards, 5 catches for 24 yards and a touchdown. He's a guy who could come in, and if something happens to Drake or by any means, this guy will be the replacement. And he's a bona fide player, too.
Yeah, he's been with the Cardinals for a couple of years also as a backup to David Johnson previously. And he's more of like an electric guy. He's a quicker, more fast twitch running back. Obviously, he doesn't have the body to play all 3 downs, but they do like to use him, get him involved, and especially receiving around the red zone. So another guy who's a good chance to take a flyer on deeper leagues. Or if you just need a running back, you have Aaron Jones and you don't have much options and you need to plug somebody in just for 1 week, Here's
the deeper leagues here. We got Brian Hill from the Falcons, Justin Jackson, and then Damian Harris from the Patriots. James White out and Sonny Michel to the IR. 17 rushes for 100 yards. That's somebody to look at. James
White is back, though. James White played. Burkhead played, and Damian Harris played. But, yeah, like you said, that's deeper leagues. He did get 17 rushes, and this was his first game off of the IR. Damian Harris started the season on the IR. So 17 carries. You just don't know. Last week it was Burkhead and Michelle. Now Michelle's on the IR. Not a backfield you want to get involved with, but if you're desperate, that's a look. And Brian Hill, yeah, no thanks.
Agreed.
Here's a comment. I just see the hell of a deal. I traded Ryan Fitzpatrick for Cooper Kupp. I'm pretty sure he made the deal because his starting quarterback was Brett Rypien. His starter was Cam, but you know what happened.
Damn, that sucks.
Desperate.
That's desperate. That is desperate. Fitzpatrick. Wow.
Wide receiver waiver action. First guy on the list, Scotty Miller from the Bucks, ranks first on his team in reception yards and has consecutive 10-plus fantasy points. Somebody to look at. Starting to look like this is going to be Tom Brady's guy, his little Edelman, his little Amendola style kind of guy.
I like that.
Next guy on that list, T. Higgins from the Bengals, 15 targets in the last 2 weeks. And we all know, we've been saying it, rest in peace to A.J. Green's fantasy football life.
Boyd and T. Higgins is what it's looking like. Yeah, man. I'm not saying get Higgins and start him, but it'd be a good guy to pick up if you need some wide receiver depth. Let him sit on your bench for a while and let him get rolling consistently.
MVS, Marquez Valdez-Scantling from the Packers, 20.6 reception yards, 5th highest in the NFL. Just if you pick him up, beware, bye week this week.
Yeah, this dude had the opportunity with Lazard out and with Adams out, and he didn't do anything, did he? On Monday Night Football, wasn't it the tight end?
Marquez Valdez-Scantling is hurt.
No, he played. It's
Lazard.
Lazard.
Lazard. My bad. Yeah, you're right. My bad.
Lazard. I'm out on Valdez-Scantling.
Yeah. Aaron Rodgers is going to throw it to whoever's out there.
They've been saying Valdez-Scantling since last year. Like when anytime Adams gets hurt, and it never happens. It's always somebody.
I don't think Aaron Rodgers even knows who he is. He's just throwing the ball out there. Aaron Rodgers is in another one of those zones, like Russell Wilson. I think Aaron Rodgers is in the fantasy. He's in the MVP discussions right now too. He has to have his name in that discussion.
Mecole Hardman from the Chiefs, 4 for 27 and a touchdown. I mean, they're running reverses with the guy. They're getting him out deep. They're finding ways to get these players the ball. Anybody on the Chiefs right now, you can get them pick up, especially if you're in a deeper league. Get somebody like Mecole. Would be nice.
And it's touchdown or bust for him in most cases. He doesn't get all the targets, but they expect him to do a lot with the targets that he does get. It's plays kind of designed for him.
They had high hopes for him this year, so they're going to be looking to get him involved.
Yep.
Speaking of deeper leagues, Hunter Renfrow from the Raiders targeted 8 times last Sunday, caught 5. So that's somebody to look at.
It's one of those guys that gets open. It's one of those little slot receivers.
All right, we got a question from David Tyler Bridgewater. I'm torn between starting Brady or Minshew. I had Brady on the bench this weekend.
Ooh. Don't chase it, bro. Start Minshew against the Texans. Don't chase.
Who do the Bucs play? Oh, the Bucs play the Bears
on Thursday night.
Yeah, I'd probably go Gardner Minshew here in this matchup. They're going to air it out.
Don't chase it. You fucked up, Bridge. You fucked up already. Just own it and move on to the next week, Bridge.
Good advice. Yeah, don't chase it.
Let's talk some waiver wire tight ends. Dalton Schultz is a guy we've been talking about. For some reason, he's still available in some leagues, and he's ranking 4th in targets. So if you haven't picked up on this guy, what are you waiting for?
Yeah, he's going to get the opportunities if he's there. So,
hey, Just, I got to be the tight end whisperer, bro. I picked up Schultz last week, started him for Janu Smith, who was on his bye.
Yeah. You've been on him, too, talking about him, too. So
yeah, Janu Smith also. I mean, he missed a week, but he's back. But having Schultz and Janu Smith on the team, I know Schultz had 8 targets and 4 receptions this past week, and it seems like he's a guy that can run after he catches the ball, too. So he's a good option to have.
All right, another guy to look at is Eric Ebron from the Steelers. 7 targets in week 3, and he has a week 5 matchup against the Eagles. So
I like Eric Ebron. I think him and our Big Ben has always shown that he has love for a tight end. It's just a matter of who it is. Big Ben, he's always going to be looking for the tight end. So if he has a rapport with Eric Ebron, I would be looking to try and pick him up on the waivers. I picked him up last week because I wanted to start him for my tight end, but they ended up getting affected by COVID, so they ended up not playing this week. Right. So I had to start somebody else. And Austin Hooper scored a touchdown because everybody scores on the Cowboys, and I had just dropped Austin Hooper. So yeah, it just works out like that sometimes.
All right, Cameron Brate from the Bucks. OJ Howard out for the year, and Gronk's not getting those touches, so this could be Tom's favorite tight end target. You know he likes to go to those tight ends.
I like it. Maybe not an every week thing, but you can play him some weeks, especially based on matchup. There's certain teams who can't guard the tight end, and like like Justin said, Tom Brady likes his tight ends, and Gronk is non-existent. So Cameron Brate, he already scored a touchdown this past week. So I think he's going to be playable.
I think David Bridgewater said he won by 5.5, so that's why I'm thinking about chasing it. Simply based on Brady gets TDs and Minshew mainly gets yards.
Well, Minshew's playing the Texans, and the Texans haven't looked that good, although we got rid of O'Brien, so maybe they're going to be a little inspired this week to get their first win against the Jags.
Is Chris Godwin coming back anytime soon? Because the sooner he comes back, the better Brady's going to be. So more weapons, the better.
If Godwin does, it is a short week though, so who knows if Godwin plays because they play on Thursday.
Yeah,
but if he does play, I would go Brady. But I mean, I think Minshew's a pretty good start this week as well.
Week 5, waiver quarterback replacements. One of the options, Gardner Minshew from the Jags, 20-plus fantasy points in 3 of 4 games this season. Roland, I know you were talking about Justin Herbert from the Chargers, 310 yards passing games this season. 310 yards passing games average this season. That's not bad.
Yeah, I like Justin Herbert. I was wrong on him coming into the NFL out of college. I didn't think he was going to find success right away like he is doing now. So he looks pretty good so far. He has rapport with their best receiver, Keenan Allen. So that's always a good start because Keenan Allen's going to get open. That's one thing. You just got to get him the ball. And he's shown that he's able to do that. So Justin Herbert's going to put up some numbers. I don't know if it's going to be consistently at 300 yards, but he's going to be another guy that's streamable.
Yeah. All right. We got a new comment from Scriv from YouTube. Would you guys trade Antonio Gibson and David Johnson for C-Mac?
If you can do that, I would.
I would. Yeah, you need those two guys combined on weeks will get you what McCaffrey gets you by himself. So yeah. I think if you're getting McCaffrey, yeah, you definitely got to pull the trigger. A good showing for Gibson, too. This is the time to trade him. That was a really good game, 20 points. You can even sell it and say it was against the Ravens, that it's only going to get easier from here on out.
Oh, and you already have Kamara.
They let you do that. They're stupid.
Yeah.
In a 14-team PPR. Wow.
Oh, they let you do that. They're stupid.
No, run it. Run it if they let you.
This next guy on the waiver wire is probably my favorite start for this week. Teddy Two Gloves, 26 fantasy points in week 4. He's facing the Falcons. It is a division game, but it seems like everybody's just putting it up on the Falcons. He's spreading it out. Mike Davis, Moore's getting a little bit. Anderson's getting a lot. I like him as a stream this week for sure.
Yeah, I like Teddy Bridgewater. I agree with you there as well.
Somebody I listed for week 6, not this week, but for week 6, Kirk Cousins. If you need a streamer, he's going to be facing that Falcons defense on week 6. Somebody to think about picking up.
Russ and Breeze owners, Kirk Cousins might be the stream next week. Jump on it.
He says, who should I pick up until CMC is back? Right now, his options are McKissick, Hill, and the Browns running back Johnson.
I go Johnson.
Yeah, I'd go Johnson.
The ball.
I'd go Johnson 2 weeks. McCaffrey will be back. I mean, even if you lose a game, bro, if you go 1-1, you're good. With McCaffrey and Kamara going forward, it's going to be crazy.
All right, well, that's it for the our part of the show. Let's hear some of your questions. If y'all have questions, we'll stay on and answer a few. If not, we'll be wrapping it up soon. So let us know what y'all have as far as questions go.
We can go over the standings, too, for the Fantasy League, the updated standings.
Go ahead and update them while we're getting questions in.
The 4 playoff spots, Roland did take his first L this week, but he still stays at number 1 at 3-1. Diego at 3-1, number 2. Chucho Rexa 3-1 at number 3. And then myself at 3-1 at number 4. Marky 3-1, ranked 5th. And then
nice.
Justin 2-2 at 6.
So that's good record.
7th is India 1-3. 8 is Ron 1-3. John at 9-1-3, and Fonz at 0-4, number 10. So we got some good matchups this week, though. I know I play Diego, so that's number 2 against number 4. Roland, I think you play Justin this week.
Yes. So I was looking at his roster.
I gotta do some fantasy. I gotta do some roster work tonight.
Yeah,
we'll see.
You catch him with Ekeler out, Justin. Might be good for you, and you
get easy down with Rodgers.
And without Rodgers, and you get to start Mike Davis while he's still starting. So this could get the dub, Just get the dub.
We got a question, right?
David Johnson or Emmanuel Sanders for the flex?
Oof, that's a good question. I am going to go ahead and lean with David Johnson this week.
I'll go David Johnson also against the Jags.
All right. Script says, and for tight end, should I roll with Gesicki or should I pick up Tanyan? I think Tanyan, man. The only thing is he's on a bye week this week, so you're not going to be able to abuse him.
I'll stick with Gesicki.
Gesicki had a two points this past week.
Like Gesicki had one big week, and then he's been above.
Never mind.
Yeah.
Oh, man, you're lucky I'm not in your league, says
No,
Irvin.
you're lucky I'm not in your league, right? Or would be drafting all 49ers, and they're all banged up, so his team's probably trash.
Hey, but Ayuk had a good little catch. You see him float?
Ayuk is another guy who's a possible waiver wire guy. It seems like they're trying to use him the same way that they use Deebo Samuel and kind of even off the load. So he's
dude looked like he was floating on that play that he jumped over the guy.
Yeah, that was a wild play.
Crazy.
Hey, Bam Adebayo's playing tonight against the Lakers.
Should be a good game.
Dragic is out though. Lakers need this win. They really do because Jimmy Butler said we were in trouble if not. He was already getting at it.
Well, Jimmy Butler didn't only say that because
2-2.
LeBron said it first. So
yeah, I know. I just don't want to be 2-2.
It can't be that the Lakers get to talk shit and nobody can say anything back either. We can't act like that.
Yeah, John. Earlier we talked about Wentz, and I think it was 2 for 3 that said we should give up on him as a starter. Or did we all come to consensus? All three of us say yes.
Yeah, we should give up on him. He's nothing more than like a streaming option.
A streaming quarterback. Yeah, agreed. I mean, I don't know, but the Eagles shouldn't give up on him as a starter. But in fact, for fantasy purposes, yeah.
Streaming option, yeah.
Did you see that he threw a touchdown the play after like Hurts fumbled the snap or something? Hurts came in for one play, fumbled the snap on Sunday night, and the following play Wentz threw that TD to put him up.
Irv, I'm not too worried about how LeBron's going to respond. I think he's going to be okay. What I really want to see is AD have a better game than what he did last game because that's not going to cut it for us. We need AD to have a better game than that.
What did he have?
That's kind of where I'm at with that.
Rebounds?
Yeah, and then foul trouble real early. I mean, he was just off. It wasn't AD. So
it's Kelly Olynyk, bro.
Should I try and trade for Darrell Henderson?
No.
You know, well, we talked about it earlier. Darrell Henderson, he had a weird week this past week. He declined in touches. And if you need to pay attention to Cam Akers, because if he comes back, I don't think you should trade for Darrell Henderson if Cam Akers comes back this week.
Try and
be on the lookout for that.
Try and trade for Gibson.
Yeah. Give up on the whole NFC East, John.
Yeah, I'm just about ready
NFC
to
East.
Cowboys.
This week I saw a meme that had Progresso Red Ants above us on the NFC East win.
Not looking good.
That tie for the Eagles winning the division right now.
John says he's got Stafford, but not lighting it up.
And he's on a bye week, right?
Yeah, but he's on a bye.
I'm hoping Galladay to stay healthy down the stretch.
Same here.
Galladay seems like a really good receiver, man. Huge target. Like he's a good red zone threat.
Staying away from all Browns running backs. I'm not sure you should stay away from Browns running
backs.
Dude,
how good is Kareem Hunt going to be? Honestly, how good is Kareem Hunt going to be? He's probably
he meant Rams. He meant Rams.
Oh, Kareem Hunt's going to be top 5 running back while what's his name is out.
Yeah, and then so will that other guy, not top 5, but he's going to get his touches. The backup, Ladero, or whatever I put his name as.
Yeah,
he's going to get his touches too. So,
all right. Well, you want to wrap it up? We'll be doing the podcast. The podcast will come out Friday
morning. Look out for it.
Thursday night, these guys will be recording the podcast, and I should have it up Friday morning on all audio platforms, and then as YouTube and Facebook as well. So,
let's go Spurs. Let's go Spurs tonight, baby. Let's bring home number 6.
Astros 2-0. Astros 1 win away.
We got another question that says, guys, I'm planning the flex this week.
Or Taylor. Those are good options. Well, Godwin, let's say he's hurt. I would go Darren Waller. I think he's gonna have a bounce back game.
I'd go Taylor after the bad week this past week.
I think Taylor had that last bad week, and I think that's it.
There we go. 2 out of 3. Say Jonathan Taylor.
All right, guys. Thanks for tuning in again, and we'll be back next Tuesday with another fantasy football video. And if you have questions, go ahead and leave them on our Facebook page or Twitter page, and one of us will get to you. Thank y'all.
Later.
Laters.